And welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, dogs and cats, elephants and zebras, gypsies on the she. Okay. A number of you have asked what I did in World War II. First of all, I wasn't born yet, so that's very important, if not the most important point. My father was in World War II. My grandfather, my dad's dad, was in World War II. My mom's dad was in World War I, and he tried to serve in World War II, but they said he was too old. He was younger than I am at the time. Anyway, so since, frankly, I wasn't alive, so if you want to know what I did, I'm going to have to tell you a story. So, I was with the 185,956 Infantry Brigade Division, 9,862nd Company. I was watching our cat Johnny pounced on something. So it was D-Day. We didn't really know what was going to be going on, right? So we got off the ships and we loaded up in the landing craft. We were supposed to be some of the first people to land on the beaches of Normandy that day. And, the boatswain who was driving or piloting the landing craft, he flooded the engine. So we just kind of sat there. Well, there was a current and there was also a wind, and it started blowing us south. At first, we're like, well, the boatswain is gonna get the engines fixed, and there were a couple of guys on the landing craft that did auto mechanics back home. So they tried to work on it. All they did was damage and destroy the freaking engine. So we just drifted. And we drifted and we drifted. At first we figured, they're gonna eventually find us, because there were airplanes everywhere, there were ships and boats and submarines everywhere. But no. And we drifted and drifted some more. We kept drifting south. We kept going south. The current and the winds were driving us south. Well, at first we're like, we need to preserve our water and our food. So the first day we really didn't eat or drink. But some of the guys were getting sick. I was used to being on ships, so it didn't bother me. But and for most of the guys, it didn't bother them. But eventually we got mad at the boatswain and we killed him and we barbecued him. And they tasted pretty darn good, to be honest with you. A couple of the guys on the boat were one guy was a cook and one guy was an actual chef from New York City. So they cooked him up pretty darn good. It was good. We ate him for a few days, so pretty delicious. And ever since then, I've been a cannibal, So, but anyway, so we kept drifting. Now, after we ate him, we had to resort to eating our rations. And we had a mix of K rations and C rations. And, we had our P-38s. Let me see if I can show you a P-38. This is the same P-38 I had at the time, by the way. I've kept it. I've never gotten rid of it. This folds down. That's what you open cans with. So anyway, after about a week, we lost track of time. We estimated we had been out there for about a week, 2 weeks, and we were drifting. At various points, we did see land, but we could never get there. And eventually, we took the boatswain's bones and we tried to make paddles out of them, but that didn't work very well. So eventually we did land in hold on, whoops. So eventually we did land in trying to get this to stay up. Eventually, we landed in what at the time and at the time was called Southwest Africa. Today it's called Namibia. I hope I'm Namibia, not B, but Namibia. And anyway, so we landed, and thankfully there were quite a few shipwrecks. So there were plenty of supplies, and we were able to get some seawater and filter it. And took about a month to hike through the desert, and but like I said, we had supplies, so it wasn't bad. We made a sled that we put several sleds we put our supplies on. And one of the guys, he went mad after eating the boatswain, so we just left him because he was just out there running around babbling and stuff. So we just left him in the desert. Eventually, he became the president of South Africa, but that only lasted a few days. Once they realized he was insane, they put him in an institution. But anyway, so we hiked through Namibia. We were going east, and as we were eventually, all of a sudden, these big cats came up, and none of us knew anything about Africa. We didn't even know we were in Africa. One of the guys, he had been a school teacher, actually a professor, before the war. He was a lieutenant in the unit, and he told us that they were cheetahs. And he said, you probably don't have to worry about them. And we're like, well, but they would be good cooked, wouldn't they? And he said, yeah, they probably would be. So we killed one and we barbecued it too. Then a few weeks later, we actually found some African tribesmen who lived, the very traditional way. They didn't understand what we were saying. We didn't understand what they were saying. But they eventually went like, come on, like that, like follow us, So we followed them. They took us into South Africa, and after a few weeks, because it was hard traveling. After a few weeks, they took us to a town, and in that town, somebody was able to send a message over the wireless, and about 3 weeks later, somebody showed up with a caravan, and they took us to the capital, Johannesburg. And then the thing is, we were in Johannesburg for quite a while, and by the time they shipped us home on board a ship, the war was over with. It was all gone. It was done. So, to be honest with you, we never saw battle. We never saw it. We drifted. All that time drifting and traveling through Africa, the war was over with. So, at first we were afraid that the Allies lost because they were keeping us in Johannesburg for so long. But no, the Allies did win, but, so anyway, so that is what I did in World War II.